It takes a lot to slow down Mark Dobmeier. 3 years ago, his racing career was put on hold after suffering a severe back injury in a wreck at Wisconsin's Cedar Lake Speedway. Then this past March, Mark was hit with another scare, suffering second and third degree burns while racing in Arizona. In this week's My Place Hotel's Inside Track, Taylor Budge has more on his remarkable recovery, which made this latest return even more special. We do want to warn you, though, some of the images you're about to see may be disturbing.
When facing what seems like a never-ending winter, those in North Dakota live for summer nights like these.
I can take your ticket.
Mark Dobmeier
I was just like, nah, I ain't doing it, you know. And
is one of them.
that's the whole reason why I'm still doing it, just for that thrill, that rush, you know.
As thousands of fans cram into the seats at River Cities Speedway, Dobmeier was dreaming for the day
Here we are, ready to have some fun in the bull ring.
he'd be back, too.
I knew it was serious.
Mark thought his bump in the road came in 2020.
It's just been one of them things you got to deal with, you know. I wasn't expecting to deal with this a second time, but here we are.
A back injury that took him away from the sport he loves. But not out.
Well, the back injury was a lot. I mean, it was highly painful, but it was for more of a short order. And then it was more painful because I felt good, but I had to let the healing take place and sit out for a whole year before I could even jump back in a race car.
But then on March 10th this year, another setback like he's never experienced.
And I remember exactly what happened. It was just, I felt a little coolness on my right leg, and if you ever get any coolness, there's a good chance it's going to be fuel. Well, I felt a little bit on my right leg, and I'm like, God, is that fuel, or what the heck is that? And all of a sudden, I felt a lot more of it, and I'm like, oh boy. So whatever happened, I got a fuel leak of some sort. My goal was to get around 3 and 4, go around the front stretch, hit the ignition switch to kill any spark in the engine, and then pull in there and just pull out of the race. Unfortunately, the yellow flag came out, so all the cars slowed down in front of me, so I did not have time to hit the ignition switch or nothing. And as soon as I got out of the gas, the engine will always backfire a little bit and kind of flame out the exhaust pipes. Well, as soon as that flame came, I heard the woof of the fire starting, and I knew I was on fire at that point.
The veteran driver had no time to panic.
As soon as I hit the ground, I just started rolling, and I didn't stop. I just kept rolling, because I knew that was the only way I was going to get the fire out. And I just kept feeling the heat on my legs, and I couldn't get it to stop, and I kept rolling. And then at one point, I heard red, red, red on the radio because I still had my driver radio in. And at that point, I knew I was really in trouble, because that means they just realized now that I was on fire.
Mark suffered second and third degree burns from his knees down. His 2-layer fireproof suit saved him from worse. He spent 10 days recovering in Arizona before being transferred to the burn unit in St. Paul.
Burns take 48 to 72 hours to show their true face. It looked like a bad sunburn on my legs. So when I was sitting in the ambulance, I'm like, geez, I'm not that bad. You know, I just got, a couple layers of skin off here or whatever. But as soon as the things start settling down and reality starts setting in, that's when the pain level starts skyrocketing.
Mark has learned plenty over a racing career that spans decades. But his latest lesson may be the most important.
The one thing where I did screw up is I was not wearing any fire retardant underwear underneath. I've changed my ways now, and I wear a completely full set of Nomex underwear with the head sock and everything, and do it all the correct way now. But because of my stubbornness, I'm paying for it at this point.
Mark received support from across the racing world, but it's the words from his father, Mike, that helped him the most through his recovery.
It's brought us a little bit closer, you could say.
Before Mark was born, Mike burned 40% of his body while working on a submarine in the Navy.
Through laying in the hospital and talking to my father a lot, we've had a lot of, deep conversations that I guess that we didn't have before. So it was, it's good to relate to him. I always wanted to be like him. I just didn't want to be this much like him, I guess. We'll be having some fun later.
Less than 3 months after the fire,
I just wish I could find an easier way to make an impact.
Mark is back in his Grand Forks garage.
Well, this here is the actual car that I got hurt in Arizona. Just kind of the first glance of the car, it really doesn't look that terrible. If you notice, like up on the hood, you can see that the hood's all crispy and everything until there was fire. The fuel leak happened in the engine compartment, so it was actually leaking in the engine compartment, but then it was leaking through the cockpit.
Not only is he working on cars,
overall, like the frame of the car is in good shape. A lot of the components are still just fine on the car.
he's racing them. Then in May,
It's kind of back to that surreal experience, you know.
the type of return that seems to only happen in movies.
Once you're in that car and you're strapped in, you're racing, you know, everyone's like, how's your legs? How's your legs? Legs are the last thing on my mind when I'm in that car.
Getting close.
In his very first race back since that night in Arizona, Mark Dobmeier was back in the victory lane again.
Put your hands together for Mark Dobmeier.
I love to come back in and just hammer it home right away and take that doubt out of anybody else's mind that is he going to win again or any of that kind of stuff, you know.
Those summer nights at the track aren't just meant for racing, but where memories are made.
Have a wonderful night.
And if you think the past few months have made Mark reconsider how he spends those summer nights,
Some fresh power steering pumps here.
think again.
I mean, it makes you think about it and whatnot, but it's this is what I enjoy doing. This is what my family likes doing with me, so we're gonna still enjoy it for a while.
Now, Dobmeier is making an impact on the racing community in more ways than one. Since his incident, he says that 90% of NOSA drivers ordered fire suppression bottles and Nomax underwear after seeing what he went through. In other words, living and learning.